Welcome back. So the third part of this lecture has to do with this principle called the shareable darkness, which I think is actually the key to good storytelling. It has less to do with the nuts and bolts and more to do with thinking about how to reach your audience emotionally. So the shareable darkness is an idea that I came up with by myself. So it's trademarked. Don't sell it unless you credit me with it. And maybe I'll give a TED talk about it sometime. But it's essentially this. All of us have stories that we tell all the time. We're story animals. We're telling stories to everybody. And most of the stories that we tell are kind of the happy, shareable stories and memories of our lives. They're colored orange in the graph because they're easy and fun to tell. They create connection with other people. They reveal things about ourselves that we want to reveal. They are ways of being social animals, which is what humans are. Unfortunately, there's another part to who we are as humans, and that is that we all have unbearable darkness in our lives. And maybe the journey of becoming a fully realized human, the spiritual path of redemption has to do with learning how to carry or bear or surrender or harmonize our life with the unbearable darkness that really defines who we are. You have unbearable darkness in your life, and you probably haven't talked about it in class. You maybe haven't talked about it to anybody in the class at all, ever, even in a private conversation. And possibly, you've never talked about your unbearable darkness to anyone. You're young enough that that's possible, and I encourage you to share it with somebody. But that's just how darkness is. And your narrator does not want to talk about their unbearable darkness, which is why I want to make these overlapping circles, right? The happy, shareable stories. The unbearable darkness actually covers a little part of the happy, shareable stories because that darkness really does define us in ways that sometimes are unavoidable and disappointing to us. But there's good news. There is this overlapping part of the Venn diagram, which I have named the shareable darkness. And that is the revelation of some of the darkness that we have, that we wouldn't typically tell a story about. But if you can find a way to somehow allude to or imply or hypothesize about the darkness in your narrator's story that's lurking at the edges, and if you can get your narrator to talk about it, knowing that they're sharing it with an audience, the audience cares about the shareable darkness so much more than the happy, shareable memories. Because the shareable darkness is what makes us vulnerable and human. And when we listen to a story where we care about the thing that is difficult for the narrator or for the storyteller, it just raises the level of the storytelling stakes immeasurably. Thanks for sticking with me for these long series of videos. Please, what I want you to do is post some of your responses, some insights that maybe you had as a result of listening, or email directly me to tell me about some of the questions that you have. Now I know that you will email me directly, please, with concerns you have about the technical elements of the story, but please also email me about some of the formal questions that you have. I hope that your work is going well. I hope that you're healthy. I hope that you are finding the resources to stay well emotionally and mentally in a time that's difficult for all of us.